My name is Sarah. I'm an Azure administrator. Started my career as a support engineer, and now I'm a technical specialist. And I'm so glad to be here. I have over 4 years of experience working with Microsoft Service, and I also have one of our mentors as well on the call. Titi, do you mind going on mute to introduce yourself so they can just a quick introduction before we go around?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Titi Bilo, and I'm also one of the mentor for this course or this particular track. So, nice meeting you. Okay, that's, I'm sorry. I'm an Azure expert and then subject matter expert, and then also a subject matter expert for Microsoft 365, and then we have been mentoring here for quite some time now, and we welcome you all to this session. We hope you're going to make a very good use of this opportunity. So that's it from my side. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Over to you.
So for materials, our able Titi is going to share some materials to us as the call goes on. All right. So today we are going to be talking about Microsoft Entra ID. What Microsoft Entra ID is. Does anybody on the call have anybody heard about Microsoft Entra ID or Azure AD? I'm going to share my screen. Let me know when you see my screen.
Yes, ma.
Okay. All right. Someone, your hand is up.
Yeah, actually, I was trying to say that my basic knowledge of the Entra ID is like it's used to grant access to Microsoft 365 and then Microsoft Azure products. That's my basic knowledge of it.
Okay, you are not wrong. That's very good. That's very good take on Entra ID. So Entra ID used to be called Azure AD. However, the name was changed. So as a beginner in Microsoft's world, the first thing you should look in Azure world would be to know about identities. Now, what is identities? Everybody, we have a phone, right? And in our phone, we have different contacts. Like you save Sarah's name as Sarah Anuyago. You can even add office, you can even add an email address in your contacts, right? So that's the same thing for the cloud world. So in the cloud world, you want to save your users, you want to save their details, you want to save their name, you want to save their department. Sarah is in sales department, Sarah is in IT department. The word entra means entry. I think it's from Portuguese language. It's not English. So it means entry, and ID as it stands for identity. So imagine being able to use the same sign-in credentials to securely access all of your online services for work. Back in the days, you may have like username and password for this account, username and password for this other account, username and password for this account, a different username and password for maybe your Word, Microsoft Word, a different one for your Azure environment, a different one for this. So Microsoft was like, okay, why don't we have the same sign-in credentials to access all of your online services, right? That can be hosted by Microsoft. You can even check your other cloud apps, just like Gmail, for example. Some of us, when we want to sign up to a new product, you can see sign up with Google. For example, if you want to sign up to Medium or even LinkedIn, you see sign up with Google accounts. Am I right? So this is what we call single sign-on. So that's what Microsoft Identity is all about. Microsoft Identity is all about having your own identity that allows you to authenticate and give you authorization to use services in your organization. So there are three principles of identity. One is to identify yourself, who are you, to authenticate yourself, and to authorize oneself. So this means can be either through username or through user ID. Your credit card number, for example, is what identify you. In Nigeria, we have what's it called? NIN. In the US, they have social service numbers, right? These are your unique identifiers. So in your company as well, you have to have these unique identifiers. For example, there may be two Sarahs in the company, with the same surname. What's a common surname? Smith. There can be two Sarah Smith in a company. So how do you uniquely identify which of the Sarah Smith you want to reach out to? Is it Sarah Smith in the sales department, or is it Sarah Smith in the tech department? So so that's what identity is all about. It's all about consolidating all this into one management system. I'm not going to dwell much on the PowerPoint slide. I'm going to show us the portal because it's going to help us when it's time for us to write our exam if we want to take the 104 or the 900 exam. So who are the people that manages this identity? They are the administrators. It can be your global admin, your help desk admin. There are different type of administrators and different type of role. So I'm going to share what it looks like so we can see what it looks like, a quick tour. So when we go to the Entra ID, just for you to know, you go to portal.azure.com, portal.azure.com. Then you sign into your account. It loads. See Microsoft Entra ID here. So once you click on Microsoft Entra ID, it takes you to this portal. This is the old portal. I'm going to take us to the new portal. Take this here. Okay. So now this is what Entra ID looks like. This is the portal. This is the portal of Entra ID. This is where the big company, this is where they manage the identity of their users. A new user is coming into the company. What are you supposed to do as an Azure administrator? This is where you come, you create these new users, you create group, you create devices, and you also check sign-in logs and other things like that. So this is what it looks like. Moving on, on this call, we are going to examine Microsoft Entra ID. We are going to understand the concepts. We are going to compare the different plans. We are going to talk about password resets, and we are going to do a recap of what we've learned. So now, what is identity? It's an object that can be authenticated. It's what's an account? It's an identity that has data associated with it. For example, going back to this is an identity. If I come here and I come to users, if I go to all users, this is an identity. First deck is an identity. Ashlyn is an identity. So this is what it looks like in the portal. We are going to talk about how to get a portal set up for you guys. I don't know if it's ready. Titi, is it ready? Or
they won't be able to sign up except for those who are probably outside of Nigeria. So for people who are joining us from somewhere else where there is no restriction on on our cards, then you'll be able to spin up a trial for yourself if you have dollar card. But if you don't have dollar card, that might be hard. So what we plan is at the end of the class today, we are going to share a lab environment that we'll have access to. And also this lab access might be maybe 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 kind of, for them to be able to try their ends. So that's what we have that we can with. That's how the improvisation that we're able to make.
Okay.
So Sarah,
yeah. Okay. That's good. So as you said, 3-to-1, we're going to try our best to. But if you have a dollar card, or if you have a sibling abroad that has a dollar card, just you can tell them to spin up a portal for you, and you can get like free account for a month before so you don't end up incurring some unwanted costs on somebody else's card. So let's be very careful when we are doing that. Anyway, so I'm going to give us a quick tour on the Entra ID Admin Center. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a user account. So that's one of the basic things you should learn how to do as an Azure administrator or as an help desk administrator in your organization. So the first thing you want to know how to do is to create a new user. So once you click on new user, there are two types of users you can create. You can either create a new internal user in your organization. in my company, maybe I'm going to have a new user. Let's say I'm going to pick John. So I'm going to give John a user principal name, John Adebite, right? Yes, John Adebite. It's going to derive a mail nickname from the user principal name, and I can give it another a display name and give him John Adebite. Right. So I can auto-generate the password, or I can create the password myself, whatever it is I want to do. Then I can go to properties. Under properties, I can add things like his first name, his identity, as you can see. His first name, his last name. I can also add authorization info if I do have one. Job title, let's assume is in sales. The company name, you can populate all these things yourself. You give the contact information, the street, the country. It's very important to put the country as well, and the usage location, because you want to give the person a usage location because that's where the person's data is going to be stored. So if you choose, let me choose Nigeria, because you gather in Nigeria. You want to give it a location, and also it's good to have usage location because, for example, if John's job doesn't require him to travel a lot, you don't want John to be signing in from, I don't know, another country, maybe Ireland or UK. If John travels to UK, let him travel, but he should not sign into your organization's portal or anything at all. So you can create a policy, which I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes as well. Then the next thing is assignment. Do you want to give the person a role, or do you want to add the person to a group? So there are different type of roles that we have. We have application administrator. We have different type of roles. Global administrator, you don't want to have a lot of global administrator in your environment. So you can give them like different administrator roles based on what they need to do. And you can leave it empty if they're not administrators, if they're just ordinary users. But if they're administrators, for example, you want them to be help desk administrator, or you want them to be exchange administrator to do everything about emails, or you want them to be any type of administrator, you want them to be SharePoint administrator, or you can even give them a global reader. So a global reader can read everything, but they cannot act on anything. They can't change anything, but they can read. So a global reader can do more of like a reporter kind of role. Like, oh, you want them to see everything that is going on in the company, but you don't want them to be able to touch anything from the admin side of things. So because John is just a sales guy, he does not need any admin rights. I'm just going to continue. Click on review and create. Password usage location is Nigeria. I click on create, and when we refresh and we search for John, we would see that John is part of, okay, where is John? John. Okay, John is still loading. We'll check later on. So it's supposed to be quick. Okay, so you can see John now. John is here now. So if I search for John, you can see that John has now showed up as part of my users. So this is just basically you join a company. This is what happens, right? You join a company, an IT administrator creates it for you, give you your username and password, and voila, you can access the company's resources and other things. So this is what the portal looks like, and this is what you do in the Entra Admin Center. So moving on from users, not moving on from users, I'm still on users. For a user, I'm going to go to myself, Sarah, for example. For every user, you can edit their properties. For example, Sarah changes departments from, I don't know, maybe she was in sales before, and now she changed her department to tech support. So you can always change everything about the user here for those users. You can also check the sign-in information of this user. I go back to user. Okay. So I can also change password setting for Sarah. I can also check the sign-in logs for Sarah. I can check where Sarah is signing in from. Let me go back to users. Sarah. Yes. Okay, I can check I can assign license to Sarah here as well. We can see that Sarah has some licenses. She has Power Automate license, Power Apps license, and Microsoft E5 developer license. So you can assign license to Sarah here. You can add Sarah to a group also from Sarah here. You can see the companies I'm part of. I'm part of all company, chatbots, internet sites, blah, blah, blah. You can also check sign-in logs as well for Sarah. Yes, your hand is up. Rukayat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ma. Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, you made mention of license.
Yeah.
What does it indicate? Is it that is the more like the identity that allowed them to work with those applications? So I just wanted clarity on it. Thank you, Ma.
Okay. So there are many type of licenses that Microsoft have. A basic example of license that I can give right now is Office 365 license or Microsoft 365 license. Your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint. When they assign a license to you and you just join the company, you see that you can suddenly access Outlook, you can suddenly send email, you can suddenly use Microsoft Word without it telling you to start this free trial or something like that. That's because you've been assigned a license by the admin. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ma. So it is a license that allow you to work with those in application.
Yes. Even Teams, as we are speaking like this, you are a guest user in our Teams, but I have a Teams license that has been assigned to me, and that's why I'm able to do this call. Because I'm able to record this call because I have a license in my Sarah Anuyagu Textiles account. Yes, GB.
Thank you, Ma. Is it that it is all of Microsoft or maybe enterprise products that has license attached to them?
So it depends on your organization, right? Like my organization, I have an E5 license, and if I take a look at this E5 license, you can see everything that is on. So I can turn things off. For example, if I don't want Sarah to have avatar on her Teams, I can turn it off, or I can even remove all the license. And once I remove the license, Sarah will not be able to use Teams in the organization. So every license, there are different type of licenses, right? It's not our main focus for today, but there are different type of licenses. There is Office 365 licenses, there is Windows licenses, there is Power Automate licenses. Each of these products have their own licenses that you have to buy. And so it depends on the agreement. You can either buy it through CSP, which I'm going to go in bits, either through a CSP, that's a partner, or you can have an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, or you can buy it yourself with your credit card or your debit card or whatever card it is that Microsoft accepts these days. So, but in like my E5 developer license now, you can see that I have Exchange. So Exchange is the one for email. If I turn it off, I will still have Teams, but I will not have access to Outlook. I will not be able to do anything with Outlook, send emails or stuff like that. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
Yes,
Moving
Ma.
on.
Thank you.
All right. Babatunde, do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
So, sorry, I don't know, maybe is the right time to ask the question or perhaps after the entire program. But let me, since you said I should talk, the thing is, I make use of, currently, I know my senior colleagues in the office here use Azure Portal. And me too, I'm not really that familiar with Azure Portal. So I want to ask, what's the difference between this Azure Portal and the admin portal, Microsoft admin portal? Because I actually be the one in charge of that. And when a new staff resumed, I create users, I assign license to them, I add them to group, and it seems that's the similar thing the Azure portal is doing too. So is there any different? I don't know. Is there any difference between the Microsoft Admin Center where we had user, create new user, add them to group, assign a line manager to them, grant them licenses as well? So is there any difference between that and this Azure portal, or do they work? Do they do the same work?
So they don't do the same work per se because Azure is more granular, Azure is more wide. And yes, they do the same work as well, because if you create a new user in Azure and you go to Office 365 portal, the user will automatically appear there as well. So with Azure, you can do more things. But with Office 365, you're a bit limited to the things you can do. So with Azure portal, you can see the sign-in logs and you can see things like applications, Azure role assignments, and stuff like that. But with Office 365, the last time I checked anyway, you can only just create user and just do some basic admin stuff there. But Entra Admin Center and Office 365 Admin Center is little similar, but Azure have more stuff. That's just the major difference, I would say. But Office 365, yes, you are correct. You can do the same thing in Office 365, but because we are focused on an Azure track, that's why we are focused on Entra ID, which is part of Azure as well. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, no problem. So moving on to Sarah, I can see where she's signing in from. I can see her devices. If I take a look at her devices, I can see that she has Windows. She's signing everywhere in her Windows PC. And I can see the days she signed into, did I shift this? Too big. I can see the days she's signing as well. I can see she's signing with Windows. So these are the things you can do with the Entra ID portal. You can check where this user is signing in from, and you can, oh, this person is not supposed to be signing in from Dublin, or this person is not supposed to be signing in from, or this person is supposed to be signing from Dublin and not from Ireland. Sorry, and not from Nigeria. So what can you do then? Or this person is using single factor authentication, but I want them to use MFA. So these are the kind of things you can do in the Entra Admin Center. So moving on to our tour, because this is a little bit of tourism I'm taking you guys on. Moving on to our tour, we have what we call groups. So just like in any organization, you want to have groups.
So Sarah, you talked about core logs and all that. So I'm asking, is it that when you sign into Azure, that's where those logs come in? Or when you sign into anything at all, so long as it is under that enterprise account, it is logged in?
Yes, as long as you sign in with your company's ID, wherever you are, even if you sign into. So if I go back to, that's a very good question, by the way. So if I go back to all users again, I'm using Sarah because Sarah is the only one that is very active on this account. So if I go back to sign-in logs, okay, let me put 7 days so it can be much, can be many. Right. So when I go to sign in, anytime you sign in, you can see Azure portal, you can see Office Home. So you can see the various things I signed into, right? So anytime I sign in using my credentials, no matter the application that is being used, it's going to log it in. And you can see my IP address as well. I should not be showing you guys, but here we are. But this is the IP address that I used to sign. You can see like there are different IP addresses. So probably I signed when I was outside, I don't know, and when I was at home. So one may be from home, one may be from outside. I don't know if that makes sense. So that's anytime you sign into your organization, your company, it's going to be logged in, and it's for security reasons, so they can know when an imposter is trying to sign in as well. So I'm going to be moving on. I know there are some hands being raised. Just write down the questions, and probably after the end of this section, we can take questions related to Entra ID before we move to the next section. Okay, so back to our tourism. So now we have what we call group, right? So group, as it says, is just like grouping an object together, grouping a device together. So for example, sales department as a group, IT department as a group. I'm a manager for, maybe I'm managing like 10 people in the sales department, and I want to send an email to the 10 people. Instead of me typing an email to typing their email out in Outlook, I just want to send it to a group, and from that group it disseminates to everybody, right? So that's one of the advantage of group. Another advantage of group is that I want to give some people admin rights, but people are leaving my company, right? People are going and coming as people are resigning, people are coming in. So instead of me, every time somebody new join the company, I have to go and add them as maybe their help desk. But I can just create a group called help desk admin. Once you join the company and you're in help desk department, automatically you should be added to that help desk group, and automatically you should have the access that help desk people have, whether to change people's password or to create a new user, do your duties. So you don't have to, so that there's no downtime. So that's what group does. And how do you create a group in Azure? So you just come to groups, as I did here by the left. You click on the group type. So there are two different type of group when you're creating from Azure. you have the security group and the Microsoft 365 group. So for the security group, it's what you use to give members access to applications. It does not have a mailbox. So you can assign licenses to that security group. You can also assign roles to that security group, like the help desk I talked about. Then for the Office 365 group or Microsoft 365 group, it's used for collaboration. For example, sales departments, they don't need admin rights. They just want to be in their group. They just want to do their things. They don't want even any other person that is not part of sales department to see what they are doing. People in HR, for example, we don't want people in IT or people in sales to see what people in HR are doing, because people in HR are handling confidential information. So you can create a separate group for them that only people in HR can access this group. If they want to join the group, they need permission from the group owner. The group owner can be maybe head of HR or something like that. So I'm going to create the Microsoft 365 group for the purpose of this, for our tourism. So Microsoft 365 group, I give it a name. I call it Tech Stylers Champ. So this is what the email address is going to be. You can always change the email address if you want to. If there's somebody else that has that email address, you can always change the email address. You can write a description for the group. It is for the champions, right? Because you guys are champions. Oh, champions. Do you want a role to be assigned to you? That keep no, and then it cannot be assigned or dynamic user. So what does assigned and dynamic user means? So for assigned user means every time you want to join the group, either you go to meet your admin or you meet the owner of the group to add you to the group. But for dynamic user, it's more, I like dynamic user because you can add a query. And when you add a query, you can put it like, okay, choose a property. I want department to be equals to sales. So this way, because it's dynamic, and I click on save, owners, I can leave the owners empty for now. And I click on create, automatically it's going to create a group called Tech Stylers Champ, and automatically it's going to add everybody in my company that has the department sales in it. I don't know if I have department in sales. I think I just created John now. John should be in sales. So we'll see if John is part of it. So when you click on the group and you can see that, okay, I'm the owner. For now, the group members is still 0. Hasn't found John yet. But after like you give it up to 30 minutes, it's going to find everybody that is in sales department and automatically add them to this group. Unlike when you create an assigned group, it's not automatic. You have to automatically remove the user, automatically add the user, which means if John leaves my sales department and move to IT department now, for example, we transfer, or maybe John transfers from Nigerian branch to Dublin branch, I have to manually go and remove John from my group, which is not what we need, right? We want it to be automatic depending on your business need. So if it's dynamic, as John is leaving and as the IT admin is changing John's location from Nigeria to Ireland, automatically John, before the next day, John has been removed from that group. So anytime I'm sending information to people in Tech Stylers Champ, John is no longer going to receive those emails again because of the way I have set the group. So this is what group is all about in identity. Moving on, I'm going to, so we've learned how to create user accounts. And please note that we would have a lab session as well. We are going to send you the lab session so you guys can try it on your own. You need to know how to create users and play around with it, know how to create group, play around with it. And moving on now, I'm going to go to the next thing is assignment. So I've spoken about assignment already. Assignment is just basically assigning these users to a role. So it can be global admin role or any type of role you have in the organization, or you can create your own custom role as well. Then also we have deleting and restoring user accounts. So a user leave your organization, you don't need them anymore, or you created a user in error, you want to delete the user. You can easily click on the account and you click on delete. Where is delete again? Okay, I can click on second desk. So now this is a booking resource. So if I click on this, it's going to delete second desk. we can see that second desk has been deleted. But hey, you made a mistake, right? You didn't want to delete it. It was a mistake. You can always restore it back. So you have 30 days to restore that user back. After 30 days, it's gone. You can't restore this user back. So these are the so it's good that we have 30 days just in case you made a mistake, you wrote a script. You can also create users using PowerShell as well. So, or using Azure CLI as well. That's a scripting. So maybe you wrote a script and you mistakenly deleted many users you're not supposed to delete, or you deleted the wrong John. Maybe you wanted to delete John Smith and you deleted John Adebute. You have 30 days, right, to restore the user back. Or for some other reason, the user was deleted mistakenly, you can always restore those user. Because after 30 days, it's gone. The user is gone and cannot be restored. Also, when creating a user, you can also invite user from another organization to collaborate with the organization. For example, Sarah works for Microsoft and John works for Textilers, for example, and you want John to come and do something in your organization, but you want John to be able to access some resources. You can invite John as an external user, and John will be able to access few resources in your organization as well. And John will not have this chat issue we are having because John was invited. So John is going to be able to chat on Teams, not like what people are experiencing right now. So all these things are part of permissions, right? For example, you guys don't have the permission to access the chat box. But when we are going to fix it, you see that it's fixed. You can now access chat box, you can now type. So all these things are part of permissions that are available in the whole Azure Office 365 suite. The next part we are going to move on to is securing users in our tourism. Are we following so far? Can I continue?
Sorry, I have a question I want to ask on the delete position of users, please.
Okay.
Sorry, you mentioned something about 30 days. That's once the user is yanked off, that it lasts for 30 days before it's permanently deleted from the system. Now, I want to confirm, is it standard or that can you make modifications to that? Can it be more than or less than sort of? Does it have admin privilege for modification or something?
I don't think so. If you see on the screen, it says users are permanently deleted automatically 30 days after they are deleted. It's gone. It's gone. So, but there are some modifications that can be done, but not on the user. It's on things like mailbox, which is not our focus, because this is an Azure course, not a modern workplace course. But that one is on things like emails. For example, for legal reasons, you may want to keep somebody email in your company for like 7 years. Those ones are different. You can, even if you delete the user accounts, the mailbox can still remain in your organization for 7 years as long as you want to retain it. But that's not our main focus of this course. Our main focus of this course is users now for identity reasons. So once you delete this user, after 30 days, this user is gone. The user itself. Any other thing attached to the user may or may not be left depending on your settings for those resources. That's your Teams chats, because someone can say, "I want to come and sue you guys later on," and you just want to bring out the Teams chat or the emails and whatnot. So those ones are another topic, another discussion, and another class, another type of admin duties. But for Azure, if you delete this identity after 30 days, it's gone. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about securing users in Microsoft Entra ID. So we've talked about creating users, managing users, creating groups, deleting groups, restoring user accounts. We've talked about admin roles. So now, how do you secure these users? What are the kind of ways to secure these users? So I don't know if you've heard of the word MFA before. So MFA means multi-factor authentication. I want this to be interactive. So I want anyone that knows an idea of what an MFA is to come off mute and just tell us what they understand by what MFA means. Any takers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, multi-factor authentication, for my small understanding that I have, it means instead of using just your username and password, they have other forms of authentication you can add so that it's hard for someone else to use your account. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other person? That's very correct, by the way. Any other person? Rukayat, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so thank you, Mike. So it's just another step of authentication, right? Another step of identifying who you are. So say for instance, some some organization would add like a question that you must have, selected during sign up. Like, okay, what is your date of birth or your mother's maiden name? So after you enter your password, then there will be another stage of verification to say, okay, answer the question, then you insert it again before you are able to access the environment. So it's a step above just entering your password. Thank you.
Right, that's very correct. Thank you. So yes, they are both correct. So MFA is just like a second step or a third step, or how many steps you want to put, just to ensure that the users are who they say they are. So we have what they call authentication and we have authorization, right? Authentication is like, yes, it's me, Sarah, let me in. Authorization is, yes, you don't have admin rights, so you cannot create a user, Sarah, even though you're part of the organization. You don't have admin rights, so you cannot create this. You don't have admin rights, so you cannot do this. You don't have admin rights, so you cannot do this. That's authorization. You don't have the authority to do that. Then for authentication is like, do you want to even come? Can you even come into the company, right? Can you even enter this room? So that's what I want us to understand between authentication and authorization before I move to MFA. So authentication is, there's a building, an imaginary building, okay? Microsoft building. You want to go in, you reach the service desk people, those people that used to sit down and tell you welcome to Microsoft, right? They ask you, are you a staff? You said no, they turn you back. Or are you a guest? You say yes, they give you guest pass for 1 day. After that day, you'll not be able to enter Microsoft office again if you're a visitor. If you are working for Microsoft, they'll give you your badge. With your badge, you can go in to the Microsoft building inside, right? So that's authentication, like you are in. Authorization is, okay, now that you're inside Microsoft building, you will see some places that they will say you cannot enter. For example, maybe a data center in the office, or let me say my manager's office. You're not a manager, so what do you want to go in the manager's office? So just same way in school, you enter school, you can go everywhere in the school except staff room. Everybody knows that we are so scared of going to the teacher's staff room because all the teachers are there, right? So it's the same way with authorization. Yes, you are inside Microsoft building, but no, you don't have permissions to do this thing except you have the roles, which I've discussed earlier on, the different kind of roles that we have. So back to authentication. So now we have authenticated, we have our badge, but we have an extra security man on the door that say, are you sure this is Sarah and not Sarah's twin sister, right? How can we be sure that this is Sarah that is coming in? So they can ask Sarah questions, as Rukaya said, like, who is your what's your first what's it called, the first school you attended, or your uncle's name, or the last food you ate yesterday, or different kind of ways of doing it. So we have similar thing in the cloud as well, and we have different ways to do an MFA. So there is the let me go to it so I'm sure what I'm saying. Authentication methods. Okay, here we are. So we have different authentication method. We have the FIDO key. We have the Microsoft Authenticator. I don't know if we know it, but there's an app. If you go to, it has been around for a very long time, so we should know what it is. So we have different methods. We have the Microsoft Authenticator app, where after you sign in, it will tell you that write this number on your phone so you can know that you're the one that is signing in from this location. You can have SMS as well. You get an SMS like token, like Stanbic Bank, for example. You get a token just to be sure that you're the one that is signing to your Stanbic Bank. Stanbic Bank, after you try to send money, they will tell you to put in your token again. They're going to send you an email with your token before you can use your card to buy stuff from the internet. You have the temporary access pass. So there are different, there's voice call if you want them to call you, there's hardware tokens, there's third-party software, there's email OTP as well, similar to SMS OTP as well, there's certificate-based authentication. So there are different type of authentication methods that you have in the organization. As you can see, I'm very terrible. It's all no, 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 no. So don't be like Sarah, okay? Make sure that you have MFA enabled for your users. So if we go back to users now and we go back to Sarah, Yes, there's what we call revoke sessions. So now what does revoke sessions do? Sarah came back to us like, oh my God, something happened to her. They stole her laptop, they stole her phone. and probably her session is still on. You can open a laptop, probably she does not even have a password because she's Sarah, right? And users can have access to all those kind of things. So once you revoke sessions, automatically she's logged out from all the devices that she's logged into. So the authentication process will need to, if anybody finds a laptop and they try to sign in, it's going to request them for all the authentication process all over again, which they do not have, so they'll not be able to get into our accounts as well. So how do you know if a user is using MFA or not? If you go to the sign-in logs for a user or all the users, if you come here, you will see that authentication requirement is single factor authentication here, because Sarah does not have MFA, which is bad. Don't be like Sarah. Sarah does not have MFA enabled in our account. So that was MFA is. MFA is just like this additional security when you are trying to sign in to the organization. Now, I'm going to talk about conditional access policy as well. It's still under security. So now what's conditional access policy? You want to sign into an organization, and there are some conditions that needs to be met before you sign into the organization. If you remember, I spoke about John transferring from Nigeria to Ireland. And when he transferred, he saw that he could not sign in. What could possibly be the issue? The issue may be like the IT admin have not changed his location from Nigeria to Ireland yet. That's why anytime he tries to sign in from another country, it's going to block him. So many organizations have this in place. So you can see I have this block sign in here, but I put that report only. So there are some countries I chose, and I'm like, okay, anybody that is signing in from these particular countries or from these named locations, I don't want them to be able to sign in. So I can put Africa. I can create a name location called Africa, and I put the list of like the African countries, the 54 African countries there. And like, if my users are in Africa, I don't want them to sign in. Or if my users are out of Africa, I don't want them to sign in. Like if my users are in Ireland, I don't want them to be able to sign in. So that's what conditional access policy does. So I'm just going to try and create a new policy right now. So, but before then, let me just create a name location so we can see how it works. Because this question comes out a lot in the exam as well. Conditional access policy is one of the questions that usually come out in the exam as well. So I can do, let me not put Nigeria so I don't lock myself out. I'm sorry to any South African on the call. I'm just going to put South Africa. Okay, click on create. So now I've created a name location called South Africa. So now I go to policies. I click on new policy. Let me just put it, block sign in from South Africa. So what am I going to do? I'm going to choose my users that I wanted to include. If I want to put all users, but be very careful, because if imagine you put Nigeria and you're in Nigeria, you lock yourself out. You don't want to do that. So you can select users or group. They can be guests, they can be users and group. So I'm going to select Ashlyn. I'm going to use Ashlyn here. So I select Ashlyn. So now Ashlyn has been selected. Do I want to select a target resource? No. What are the conditions I want to be selected? So now I can do the conditions that I want to be selected. User likelihood, configure, yes, high, done. What are the access controls that I want to select as well? So now there are different kind of things. If this user is signing in from that location, what do I want to do? Do I want to block access entirely, or do I want them to use MFA by fire by force if they are in South Africa? Or do I want them to require to mark the device where they're signing in from as compliant? Or do I want them to only use their company laptop if they're outside Nigeria, if they're in South Africa? If I don't want them to use, and if I don't want them to sign into any, to my organization with any other laptop, do I need to require this? So I'm going to choose block. I don't want them to even sign in at all from the location, right? Do I also want to like choose the kind of apps that they want to sign in from, maybe Azure or any other apps? This is where you select it here. I'm going to leave it here. Do we have any network? Yes. Okay, so now this way I'm going to choose South Africa. I'm going to select one included. So this means, okay, this user that has been selected, which is Ashlyn, there's no target resource. I can do all cloud apps. So if she's signing to any of my cloud apps, I want her to be blocked. Or let me just select app. Let's see. What app should we select? Okay, Office 365, select. And if she's in South Africa, I don't want her to sign in. I want it to be blocked. I want her to block access, right? Okay. So do you want to use these sessions as well? So now this sign-in frequency, do I want that to keep authenticating periodically? I'm going to leave this as blank because I don't want anything to be, I don't want to do anything to the sessions. So now in this policy, there is report only, there is on, there is off. So if you switch it off, which means it's not going to work. If you switch it on, it means she's going to be blocked. That's actually going to be blocked if she tries to sign in from South Africa. And if you switch it to report only, it means that it's only going to create a report. So anytime she signs in from South Africa, I, the admin, can easily see that, okay, she signed in from South Africa, I'm going to get a report. So that's the difference between report only, on and off. So any question before I move on to the next block of our course for today? I'm going to move on to Azure core regions. So any question on Entra ID, authentication, authorization, groups? Any question?
Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't want to take you back, but I want to ask because while you are, maybe it's my network or something. Because I'm on phone, so I don't know if there is a delay because your screen for me to see what you're pressing is the recorded session is it going to be shared with us so that I can rewatch it from there? Then my second question. Okay. Okay.
I think it's going to be available on YouTube, but I'm not 100% sure. I would liaise with the coordinator and I'll let you guys know on the, I think, WhatsApp or Discord. One.
Okay. Okay. My second question is on Exchange. I don't know in this Azure, does it also cover Microsoft Exchange? Are you going to teach us that too? That's my second question.
No, Exchange falls under Modern Workplace, and unfortunately, we don't have a Modern Workplace cohort for this. A Modern Workplace track for this cohort. However, we have videos on our website, Textiler's website. Last year there was a Modern Workplace, and 2 years ago there was Modern Workplace. So you're going to learn about Exchange. So if you go to our YouTube, you're going to find Exchange as well there. I took 2 years ago, I did Exchange, so it's on the YouTube definitely. So this is just core Azure that's preparing us for the AZ104 or AZ900 exam. Go on.
The link for the YouTube, can it be shared on the WhatsApp group or something?
Yes, I would.
Yes, it will
be shared.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Do you have any other questions on identity before? Go on.
Yes, ma'am. So on identity, so my concern is around the dynamic assignments of permission to users. So I didn't get that clearly. And also the conditional assignments on group. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So I'm just going to do a quick recap of what we've done then and see if you're able to get what it is I said today. So a quick recap is Microsoft's Entra ID is where you manage your identities, and identities are objects, users, groups, devices, your Windows devices or any other devices you have in the organization. Where it's been managed is in the Entra Admin Center. If you want to create a new user, you come here, you click on create new user, or you can either invite an external user or you create a new user. When you create a new user, you make sure you tag them correctly. You give them their departments, you give them their the usage location. If they're in Nigeria, you put them in Nigeria and stuff like that. And that's how you create a new user. Then under the users as well, you can check the sign-in logs of people that are signing in your organization. You can do your admin duties here as well. You can see Joshua, Sarah, they are all signed in. I can see Jessica Gifts sign into Microsoft Whiteboard sign into Azure portal. This is where you can check your sign-in logs of all the users in your organization as an Azure administrator. So that's for users. For users as well, you can delete a user and restore the user. So I deleted this user as an example, and I can also restore this user as well. So if you don't restore this user, in 30 days, it's going to get deleted permanently. You cannot restore the user any longer. You would have to create a new object. And creating a new object means they're going to have a new ID, etc. Right? And I mentioned as well as an extra, it's not part of our course, is that you can delete a user but still have things like their mailbox installed in another. That's for modern workplace as well, just for legal reasons. If an organization don't want you to delete their mailbox, but if they want to make the user available. So it depends on your organization need. But if you mistakenly delete a user, make sure you try to restore those users back in 30 days. Then we talked about user settings as well. That's the MFA and the different type of authentication methods we have. So we talked about SMS, we talked about email token, we talked about FIDO key, authenticator app, and different type of authentication methods we have to make sure that your user have MFA enabled in the organization. Once you turn on the MFA, the user have to sign in, besides their password, they have to sign in using another means, which can be SMS, or it can be through the app or any other means, right? You can also create users in bulk as well, either using PowerShell or doing bulk operations like this, bulk create, even using this portal as well. If you have maybe like 10 users joining into your organization at once, you can do that as well in the portal. Again, we are going to give you access to a portal so you guys can do practice as well, because the more you do it, the easier it is for you to learn. So that's for users. Then I moved on to group, and I spoke about group. So now I talked about two different type of group. Excuse me. We have the security group and the Microsoft 365 group. Now, the major difference between this group is that one of them has a mailbox attached to it. So Microsoft 365 group has a mailbox attached to it, while security group can be used for, as it does not have a mailbox attached to it and can be used for security reasons. For example, people in the help desk team, you want them to have you want to have a security group for people in the help desk team, that anybody that is added to that team can automatically do their duties as an help desk person. What do? You create an help desk group in that instance. But if you want to create a group like sales departments, they don't need permissions to do anything. They just want to have their group just to communicate amongst themselves. You create a Microsoft 365 group in that instance. Does that make sense to you? Okay. Okay, brilliant. So I'm just going to throw a question. I'm just going to throw a question out there now. So what kind of group would you advise to create if you want to create, let's say, a system admin group that their job is to do system admin duties, and you want to assign a role to that group? What would you advise your customer to create? Would you advise them to create a security group? Great. What if you want to create an HR group where they just want to discuss and do their collaboration and create SharePoint sites and just do collaboration and send emails to themselves? What group would you advise them to create for that particular subset of users?
MS365.
Microsoft 365. So do you understand like the when to use security and Microsoft 365 group? Very good.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Now the dynamic user part is where I think maybe you got confused, or any other person got confused, is that there's what they call assigned and dynamic user and dynamic device as well. So now for assigned, when you click on assigned, if you click on assigned, I have to manually add these people to the group. Do you see what I'm doing now? I have to manually add this user to the group. And I can make mistake. What if they're not part of what's it called? They're not part of sales department, if I want to do it that way. But it's good if you can use assign when you just like, maybe I just want to add like people, maybe my friends in one group, right? So or any other, it can be used for any other reason anyway. It depends on the organization needs, depends on the business needs. However, I have a bias towards dynamic user, and that's my own personal bias. And when do you use dynamic user? Use dynamic user when you have a dynamic query. So in the other part, if you see, let me go back again so we can see. If I choose on assign and I click on no members, see what happens. I have to click on the members to add, right? Now, if I go back and I click on dynamic user, instead of no members, let me see, instead of no members selected, you see dynamic query. So now if I click on dynamic query, I have to add a query to it. Now, what are the queries? There are different types of queries. If I want to add everybody that their name starts from Sarah now, I can put display name starts with Sarah. Maybe I want to create a group of Sarahs in my company, which is going to be weird and going to be fun. Or I want to create people that their department is sales. So I just put department equals to sales. And once I click on it and I save, automatically everybody in the sales team is added to the group. I don't have to manually go and add them to that group. Same way I can just do for country. For example, maybe my organization is international, right? We have one big tenant, but we have different, we are in different countries, different locations. We have Nigerian branch, Ireland branch, etc. I just have to put country equals Nigeria. Once I put in countries equals Nigeria, automatically a Nigerian group is created for my Nigerian users. So now we have users in Nigeria. And if John, for example, wants to transfer from Nigeria office to Ireland office, automatically, I don't need to do anything much. As long as I've changed John's user property under the user tab, and I change his country as Ireland instead of Nigeria, automatically John is being removed from this group and is added to the other group of his fellow Ireland counterparts. So that's dynamic query. So that's just the admin, the basics of what we did today, the summary of what we did today. Then I spoke about security as well. And under security, I spoke about MFA, which I've already said a lot of times. Again, we all know what MFA is, and we know the different kind of authentication methods now. I also spoke about conditional access policy. And conditional access policy are the policies you put in place to stop users from signing in from either a location or IP ranges. For example, I use South Africa as an example. If I don't want my users to sign in from South Africa, I create a named location called South Africa. And after I create a named location called South Africa, I come back to policies. I create a new policy. Let me click on this one. I create a new policy called block signing from South Africa. I selected users that I don't want them to sign in from South Africa because they don't have any business in South Africa. And I selected Ashlyn. So it can be all the users in your organization. It can be some users. It can be people that maybe they're in HR. You don't want them to, maybe for GDPR reasons, you don't want them to open some kind of, maybe your lawyers. You don't want them to even open it when they are outside the country, right? You choose those people or the groups that you've created. You pick on the target resources. Do you want it to be only Office 365, but they can still access Azure if they're outside the country, if they're in South Africa? Or do you want it to be all the applications? Or do you want it to be only Office 365? They can't access Office 365 if they're in South Africa, but they can access other applications depending on what you want. Where are you blocking them from? I'm blocking them from South Africa, right? What conditions am I setting in? I want them to be blocked. I want them to be blocked. The access control. I want them to be blocked. But there are also different type of access there. You can also do, okay, I'll give them access to, but they must use MFA, right? So that is for conditional access policy. Then there are three different type of this usually comes. I don't know if it's still going to come up, but this usually comes in the exam. Like what happens if you choose report only? They may give you different options. So report only is only going to create a report. It's not going to enforce it. So as I click on report only, if my user goes to South Africa, they will log in because I chose report only. But if I choose on, they will not be able to log in. They will block, the access will be blocked. And if I choose off, it's just there. I just created it. Nothing's going to happen. So that's the basics of identities that we've done today. Do we have any other questions, or should I move on to the next topic now? Okay. But if any question comes in mind, you can always post in the WhatsApp group. I'm not in the WhatsApp group yet, but I'm going to try and join after this class. So I and the other Azure mentors can also take a look at the questions and see how we can answer as well. And please, I want to also use this opportunity to introduce Microsoft Learn. Please make sure you use Microsoft Learn because we are covering high level. Microsoft Learn goes more deep dive into this topic. So so you can use Microsoft Learn during your free time or your reading time to keep on practicing and learning. Okay. So I'm moving on now to.
Sorry, I have a question.
Okay, go on.
Okay. I just want to know which job role man uses this platform in the workplace. Are they the database administrators, or I just want to know.
That's a very good question. So it depends on every company. Every company has different job title. When people are answering different job types and they're doing different things. So it depends on the company's like keyword job title, for example. But the role description you're going to see, it will be more for identity only, just going to be like help desk, right? People that reset password. Speaking about password reset, you can also set it in a way that users can reset their password themselves. It's called SSPR, self-service password. So in my organization, nobody can reset their password themselves. That's where help desk come in. They forget their password. They have to raise a ticket with help desk. Help desk administrators now don't reset the password. But if I click on all, everybody should be able to reset their password themselves. So this is just administrative duties. So it can be IT administrator, it can be sysadmin, it can be help desk admin, it can be Azure administrator. So it depends on the role title of the job and the responsibilities of the role. But basically, what you can do with this, that we just this identity, is that you can create new users for a company, right? You can change password for this company. You can enable security for the company. That's what we've learned in the past 1 hour right now. So what are the kind of roles you can do with it? Support engineer, help desk admin, Azure admin, social. What are that? Sysadmin. Those are the kind of roles you can get with this kind of with this current way we are going. But our plan is to teach you the whole Azure app and infra administrator. So once you have the AZ, if you are able to write the AZ 104 and pass, you are going to get an Azure admin job with lots of applications in them. All right. Okay, so we're moving on to the next topic. It's called Administer Governance and Compliance. So in this topic, we are going to learn what is a subscription, Azure policy, role-based access controls, etc. So without further ado, again, I'm going to take us tour because that's what I like to do. I like you guys to see it as we discuss. So now we are going to move on to Azure compliance and governance. But I'm going to start with what they call Azure region. So what is an Azure region? I think now I have to pull up PowerPoints because this time around, I don't think I can show you what it looks like. Okay. All right. So what is a region? So a region represents a collection of data center. Let me explain. Let me not read this out. Let me just explain it to you. So I know we don't only have Nigerians on the call, but for the Nigerians on the call, we know what we call a geographical region. We have the southeast, we have the southwest. In Nigeria, we have like I think 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria, and for non-Nigerians here as well. I'm showing your countries. We have different regions as well. So we have the southeast, and we have different states in the southeast. We have the southwest, and we have different states in the southwest. We have north as well. So we have different type of regions, right? Same thing with Microsoft data centers. So now we've heard about cloud. What is this cloud people talking about? Cloud is just basically somebody else's computer, to be honest. Because you can do everything. For example, I don't know if we use Google Photos. I'm not supposed to be saying Google, but yeah, we are. Some of us have iPhone, we have iCloud. And some of us have Google Photos, we have Google Photos, where we save our pictures and we can download the picture anywhere in any other person's phone, as long as we sign into our Gmail account or our iCloud account. Same thing as well. You are with your Gmail, for instance, that many of us know, or your Outlook. You lose your phone, or you sell your phone, or whatever happens to your phone, and you sign into your Gmail account on another device, you are able to download your emails. Where are these things being stored? They are stored somewhere, right? They are stored in somebody else's computer that you cannot see. That is what is called the cloud. So that's what basically cloud is. right? And so anytime we hear cloud, just know that that's what we're talking about. We're talking about somebody else's, in this instance, Microsoft's data centers, right? That's where your data is being stored. So now there are different regions. And congratulations to Kenya. I heard they are building a data center in Kenya as well. That's a very good news for Africa development as well. So we have in South Africa, we have some data centers in South Africa. We have 2 in South Africa. As you can see, there are only 2 data centers in the whole of Africa. So we need more. Thank you, Kenya, for opening your country to that. So we need more in Africa as well. And you can see that we have some in Europe as well. So what does this region represent? It represents a collection of data centers, and they're usually paired, usually for high availability. In South Africa, you notice we have 2, North and West. In UK, we have UK South and UK West. They are paired together. In Europe, we have North Europe, which is in Ireland here. And we also have one in West Europe, I think it's in Amsterdam. So these regions, what did they do and why did they exist? They are where your data is being stored. Those emails that is stored somewhere that you cannot see, it's stored in somebody else's computer. And where is that somebody else's computer? They are all around you. So that is how I can explain what region is all about. And it comes out a lot in the exam as well. So the region is where data center is being collected, a different set of data centers. And why is it important for you to know this? You're an Azure administrator, you're an system administrator, you are working for a multinational company, right? And you probably have a website that is being stored in, I don't know, in whatever country it is you are in, South Africa or another country you are in. And you have users that are in the US, right? And they're in the US location. So what's the best thing to do? You can replicate that application to the US South or the US, what do we have there? Gosh, this is so tiny. To the West US or the West Central US. So that when they are trying to sign in, it can be easy for them. Not only easy, it can be fast. Because we're in the world, we're in the era of quick. We're no more in 3G. We're in 5G now. You don't want your users to sign in and before their email load, they are waiting, right? So that's what regions are there for. So regions are there for those kind of things, to be closer to your users, and also for privacy reasons. So we have what we call GDPR. Some government organizations may not want their data to leave Europe or even leave that country. For example, let's assume let's not assume we don't have in Nigeria, so I'm not going to use Nigeria as an example. In UK, right? In the UK, probably the government in the UK, I don't know, but probably the government in the UK, let's assume they're using Microsoft 365, Azure, and they don't want the data to leave the UK. Microsoft can tell them that, raise their hand up. Yes, we have a data center in UK West and UK South. Don't worry, your data is not going to leave the UK region. It's only going to be within the UK West and the UK South. And why are they being paired for high availability? Anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. What happens if North Europe is down? You're going to tell your users excuse that North Europe is down, so we cannot provide you services. I know people are very impatient these days, especially with the likes of where social media is going to. If you're not available, if you are seeing 404 in your website, we are moving on to another website to go and purchase our order, right? So you want to make sure that you have replication amongst these regions. So you want to make sure that your data are being stored in these regions. Like in case North Europe is down, either for maintenance or whether planned or unplanned, you want to be sure that, okay, West Europe is going to pick it up, right? So that's about region, and that's how region work. After this call, I'm going to share us with some important links where we can get the list of all the regions and their locations where they are available. Any question about region before I move on? No? Okay. All right. So that's all about region. I'm going to move on to Azure subscription, and we're going to continue with our tourism. Miracle, do you have any question? Go on.
Yes, I do. You said they are being paid, right?
Yes.
By how many are they being paid?
Just two. They pay. East US is paired with West US, for example. North Europe is paired with West Europe, for example. UK South and UK, I think, I'm not really sure, but they are being paired in twos anyway. So which means that, for example, if you have your data in East US and something happens, there's a failover in East US, either planned or unplanned, West US picks it up so that there's no downtime in your application for your users. Your users can still access their emails, they can still do other things, access your website, etc. Samuel?
Okay, thank you very much for this fine detailed walkthrough. My question is regarding the data centers. From the map, the diagram you show us on the screen, we notice that there's no single data center in Nigeria. Now, and I remember that we have one policy, NDPRO policy, this NIDA data regulatory policy 2019 that came up. That policy prevents any government data to be stored outside the boundary of Nigeria. So are we saying that there's no way Nigerian government can store their data using Azure infrastructure or Azure cloud because of this policy and because Azure don't have any data center in Nigeria? Is there any workaround with this particular thing?
Okay. I'm very Microsoft centric, so I'm trying to say I can answer this question. I don't know much about the NPDDR or NDPDR, but if the Nigerian government is saying that they don't want the data to be stored outside Nigeria, then you cannot use Azure for those particular type of data. And I feel like there's a workaround as well. You have to know the clause. What kind of data cannot be stored outside Nigeria? Do you understand? Because most companies I know in Nigeria as well use Azure. So you need to know, is it federal government? They may have their own premises, right? That's when hybrid comes into place. So hybrid is when people are using both their on-premises data center. They built their own data center, right? And they're using Azure as well, maybe for some other things that are not government related, or they are fully on-premises, they do everything themselves. So we are focused on the cloud where they have given Microsoft the license to store their data for them. But for places like Nigeria where we don't have a data center, there is really nothing much Microsoft can do right now because we don't have a data center in Nigeria yet. So it's possible that these organizations, these governmental organizations, have their own in-house data center, which means they are paying for everything. They are taking care of the manhandling. People are working there. But Microsoft is saying that, no, you don't need to do all this stuff. Just come, click here, click here. We are going to store, we're going to do all the manhandling for you. We're going to do all the old man work for you. The cooling rooms, you don't need to buy land. You don't need to get a building. You don't need to get security for your building because you need security to be there all the time. You don't want anybody to just walk into your server room, right? So if that law do exist, and thank you for that, I think I'm going to read up on that. If that law do exist, those governmental organizations would most likely have their on-premises data center in Nigeria, and it's not going to be connected to Azure or AWS. I don't know if AWS have in Nigeria or any other cloud provider, except the cloud provider has a data center in Nigeria. But for Microsoft, no, they will not be able to for those particular type of data. Any other question? Yeah, go on. Rukayat.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So I heard data governance. So is it that whenever we hear data governance in Azure, it all has to do with the policy of the governors or the policy of that country as regards data? So that is just what I wanted clarity on. Thank you.
That's a good question. No, I just use the government as an example. Governance can also be based on your company. It must not only be the government. A company can also have a governance surrounding them. So it must not only be government. It can even be just a law firm that they just don't want it, right? And we have some people that they like seeing their data. They don't even want to hear that it's in somewhere in UK South or it's somewhere in South Africa. So it all depends on the business justification and business use for these organizations. So everything depends on the organization. It's not only government, no. But we usually use government as an example because most governments like to keep most government organization don't want to even hear that something happened to Microsoft and something leak, right? Even though we are very, very secure and we are trying our best to be as secure as we can be, but we can understand that, when it comes to government, everything is jelly. Yes. Babatunde.
Yeah, thank you so much for the insight so far. So my question is, these regions we've been talking about, the one you showed us earlier, I know we have different platform for cloud computing platform. So is this region only meant for Microsoft, or other platform as well use the same region you just showed us? Or is it that all those platforms has different data center in different region, or the one Microsoft is using is the one AWS and Google Cloud use as well?
That's a good question. No, we there are different companies, different payment method. In fact, everybody is fighting for their own money, right? But we are very Microsoft centric people, so we focused more on Azure. But I feel it's the same. Because there was a time I used to learn AWS as well. It's the same concept, but it's different in a way because AWS regions is different from Microsoft regions. Probably they have in some other countries Microsoft may not have, or probably they have more, or they have less. I do not know. But it's not the same. So this is just Microsoft's focused region.
Right. Thank you. Now I get.
Okay. Akambi, Ola.
Just to buttress your point concerning the government thing, I know AWS has something called Outpost, whereby they can help you come build data centers. So if the government is really keen on having data center be managed by maybe Microsoft or Azure or Google Cloud, they can help them build a data center and help them manage it in Nigeria to fulfill that policy.
Thank you, Victoria, for that. I didn't know that. That's good. Thanks. Ola, do you have any other question? Or is that all?
That's all.
All right. Thank you. Oh, okay, Ola, are you the one talking? Sorry. Victoria, can you mute yourself, please? Okay, I'm going to mute Victoria. All right. Thanks a lot for that insight. All right, moving on to subscription. So what is subscription? What's an Azure subscription? So we can see subscription here. I think I need to increase this so that we can see it very well. Can we see it? Is it clear enough?
Yes, it's clear.
Right. All right. Give me a second. Clean my. All right. So we have what we call subscription. So there are different reasons why you may have more than one subscription. So a subscription is basically a directory that is it's a logical unit of Azure services that is linked to an Azure account. It's like it's like the way you are getting billed is based on your subscription, basically. It's like a logical container. That's what it is. It's a logical container used to provision and manage your Azure resources, and it acts as a billing unit for Azure services. So the key point is that subscription helps you to organize and control access to resources, and each subscription is linked to a specific payment method or billing account. And there are different types of subscription, which I'm going to share us right now. I think I'm going to have to go back to the slides, which I'm running away from. Okay. All right. So there are many reasons why you would need to have different subscription. For example, you may want to have a dev subscription, you want to have a test subscription, and you want to have a production subscription. So why would you want to have different subscription? You are doing a test, right? There are sometimes you may not want to spend some kind of money on your dev environment. So you may open a dev subscription to just do testing things, like to do your development things. Then you have the production subscription, the one that have like and that is end face to the public, that the public can access. So that's the reason for having different subscription. It's also a way to manage how much you are paying. You can also like, okay, for our dev guys, please, what are you guys spending on? Or people should minimize how people are doing this testing thing every time. It's money that is going. And for your production, you know, at least that one is giving you money back. And there's sometimes you can also be like, okay, for your dev subscription, for example, you may have what's it called now? You may try to do less resiliency. Like you may not want to replicate it in different location. For example, for your dev application now, you don't want maybe to have it in different countries or different data centers. You just want to have it in one particular region, one zone, because you don't want to pay for availability zones. But for your production, of course, if it's an international company, you want it to be everywhere, right? So that your users can be able to access the application quick. So that's one of the reasons for grouping things into subscription. And we have different type of subscription. We have the free one, which is the one we were speaking about, where you use your credit card or your debit card, whichever one it accepts it is. But it has to be a dollar card. I don't know what bank is in Nigeria now. So for the first 30 days, you have free limited access for 12 months, sorry. But for the first 30 days, you have $200 worth of credit for the free subscription. Then we have the pay as you go. The pay as you go is as you are using, you are paying. Then we have what they call the CSP. The CSP is they are Microsoft Cloud Solutions provide partner. There are many of them. They're usually used for SMC business, that's small to medium businesses, that people that are not like maybe 150 people in their company, or people that don't really spend much, even if there are many in their company. Then we have the enterprise agreement. So these agreements, you get discounts for new licenses and software assurance. So these are for big companies. For example, Microsoft is an enterprise organization, right? So you enter an agreement with them, like all these banks. It depends on the type of banks. Yeah, there's some banks that would consider small to medium businesses like your, microfinance. Then you have some big banks as well. I don't want to mention any name because I don't know if they are really enterprise. That are enterprise, right? And then we have students. So if you're a student and you can verify your student with your ID, you can get $100 for 12 months. So these are the different type of subscription that we have, and you need to know it because in the exam they may ask a question that they'll not ask it like this, obviously, but they will put it in a way that you have to know what you are saying. And how do you obtain this subscription? As we said earlier on, EA, as for enterprise agreements, you make an upfront monetary commitment and consume services throughout the year. For example, if I'm a very big company, I can tell Microsoft that, see, we are going to spend $1 million to take this money. Like, I'm sure we're going to spend $1 million. So because of that, Microsoft like, wow, $1 million. Okay, we're going to give you a discount on this so we can collect this $1 million and it doesn't go to another company, right? Then we have the resellers that provide a simple, flexible way for you to purchase cloud services. You go to all these companies that sell on behalf of Microsoft as well. That's the CSPs or the partners. Then for the partners, they can design and implement your Azure cloud solution. So for example, if you don't really have IT people in your organization and you don't want to employ them, you can employ the use of partners. So what these partners do is like, okay, you buy license from us so we can get our own cuts from Microsoft. And also, we are going to also help you to design your Azure environment, your landing zones, everything. We're going to help you to design we're going to be your IT people as well. So you're going to be paying them for both the licensing and for their time as well spent. So some companies like outsourcing things like that to the partners. And because these partners are also in cahoots with Microsoft, they'll be able to let you know, okay, Microsoft is bringing out this new thing called Copilot. Are you guys interested? Stuff like that. So they're like the middlemen between Microsoft and these companies as well. And the good thing about having partners as well is that you can easily, because they're like your IT people, before you raise tickets with Microsoft, you can easily like meet them. They try to solve the problem before they themselves raise a ticket with Microsoft if they cannot solve it. And for the personal free accounts, you just start right away. You just sign up, portal.azure.com, sign up, put your card details, $200 for the first for a free credit. And then you can move to a pay as you go after your 200 credits expires. Do we have any question on subscription before I move on to... Okay, let me show you what it looks like on the portal. So this is subscription. I only have one subscription. Or if I wanted another subscription, which I don't, these are the subscription I spoke about just now. So we have the get 200 free credits. I can start free, or I can do a pay as you go. Every month I get my my listing, my money worth. Then we have the student one as well. If I'm a student, I can also start as well. Then we have some other offers as well that you can take a look at later on, just to understand what it is. But these are the most popular offers amongst the Microsoft's ecosystem. So this is what subscription look like. And if you click on this Microsoft sub, you can see cost management as well, cost analysis. So under subscription, you can also set a budget like, oh my God, I don't want to spend more than $100 this month, or I don't want to spend more than this month. So you can see for the month of May, I've already spent, God, how much? I've already spent like $58, and my budget is $3,000 per month. So I can always create a new budget if I want, but I've only spent $58, and the forecast is that I'm going to spend $74. The same thing if I choose last month. We'll see how much I spent last month in April last month. Last month I spent $71, and forecast is unavailable because it's last month, it's already gone. And my budget is 3,000, but I spent less than that. So that's why this month, like, okay, with the way Sarah is going this month, it's like she's creating more stuff. Maybe you can focus it to $74 this month. Then you also have cost alerts, where you can create an alert that like, oh, if I'm exceeding this, please let me know. You can also set budgets, and we also have advisor recommendations. I love this advisor recommendation because you get an advice on everything that's like you are spending on. So for example, it can tell you that, oh, you are spending a lot of money on this VM and you've not used this VM for a while, or turn off this VM if you're not using this VM, or it just tells you what to do. So advisor is like your personal it's like your personal what's it called, advisor, right? And it's going to advise you based on whatever it is you have in your environment going on. So this is what subscription is all about. Get your invoices and all the boring stuff about money. So do we have any question on subscription, or I'll just move on if there are no questions? So if there are no questions on subscription, just know that we are going to try to, again, as we said, mentioned earlier, we're going to try and see if we can get you guys a subscription so you guys can start working on everything. So now moving on, I'm going to move to what we call resource group. So now what's a resource group? A resource group is a container that holds resources of an Azure solution, and it provides a way to manage and organize resources collectively. Let's see if we have that in our PowerPoints. Yes. Okay. So resources can only exist in one resource group. Groups cannot be renamed or nested, and you can move resources between groups. So we're going to close down the PowerPoint again, and we're going to continue our tour. So I'm going to go home and I'm going to search for resource group. So resource group is just a way to manage, like a container, right, that manages all your resources together. So in one resource group, you can have like virtual machines. We're going to talk about that in that class. You can have like virtual networking. Again, we're going to talk about that. They may all sound alien to you, but one resource group can have all these things together. And it's good to have different resource groups so that you can know, okay, what you're using. Okay, this resource group is for this. So that when you're deleting the resource group, every resources in that resource group will be deleted, and you can clear up, like, save money and stuff like that. So I have 13 resource group in my environment. You can create resource group either manually like this. Choose a subscription. I only have one subscription, so I'm going to click the one I have. You can create a resource group. I'm going to name it Textilers Champ. Now I'm going to choose, because I'm in Ireland, I'm going to choose North Europe. Okay. I'm going to choose North Europe. Where is North Europe? Can you guys see North Europe? I can't see North Europe. Okay, see it now. Let me increase. All right. So so this is it. I click review and I create, and that is all. So my resource group has been created, named Textilers Champ. How again can we create resource group? You say, thank you for asking, even though nobody asked me. So you can also create resource group using a Cloud Shell. So you just come here, you go to Cloud Shell, you come here, you click on it. What is the PowerShell again for it? So it's loading, authenticating, blah, blah, blah. You wait for it to finish all this. Then you create using the Cloud Shell. You can also use PowerShell as well if you have PowerShell. So for people that don't like using GUI, they don't like clicking, they like writing, commands. So this is the command for it. New AZ resource group, the name of your resource group. So I'm going to name this, what should we name it? Tech Champ 2. I'm going to name this Tech Champ. So running out of time, so I'm going to mean it right now. I'm going to choose location at South Central US, and after typing this, you just click enter, and that is it. That is all. It's created. But if I refresh now, if I close this and I refresh, we can see, where is it? Where is it? Yes, so you can see TechChamp 2 has been created as a resource group. So you can either create it using this or using this. Yes, Babatunde.
Sorry for taking you back. I didn't see that place. Is it when you click on the create new resource group? That was when the PowerShell pop up.
So for creating, if you click on create, it's going to create it like using the GUI, using this. But if you want to use using PowerShell, you click on this top right. You can see Cloud Shell here. Okay. So you click on Cloud Shell, yeah. So that's it. So it's Cloud Shell. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, no worries. So you can go to Microsoft Learn and just play around with different type of command lines to play around with Azure. Using command line is very good. For example, if you want to create 10 resource group, I don't know why you want to create 10 resource group at a time, but just in case you want to create 10 resource group at a time, you can easily use shell, right? Just to create it, either from a CSV file or from whatever, instead of clicking create 10 times, right? So that's an advantage of using shell in creating things like that. So that is for resource group. So the reason why we use resource group is to hold like a logical grouping, is to hold things like virtual machines, database, storage accounts. They can be grouped together. For example, virtual machines for departments of people in Nigeria in sales, you can create it for them, or the deaf people in this department, you create it for them, or you want to use it for another thing, you create. So resource group is just a logical grouping of resources in Azure. Okay, and the another reason why resource group is important is also like you can lock a resource group. You can like, okay, I don't want any other person to be able to touch this resource group, but you want them to touch other things, maybe other admins. Or as the good admin that you are, or as the best admin that you are, you don't want them to touch a particular resource group, right? So you can lock that resource group and be like, okay, yes, in case this person leaves the company tomorrow and you don't know how they're going to behave, at least they don't have access to this kind of resource group. So that's another reason why you can use resource group as well. So it's just a logical grouping of your resources. Moving on, we don't really have much time any longer, so I'm going to try my best to try and see if I can speed things up. So now we have what we call service limit and quotas. Maybe I just go back to the slide. So for service limit and quotas, so there are some limits that we have in Azure that can either be changed or not. So some resources have default limits in your organization. So there's some limits that you can create a support request and they increase it for you. They're called soft limits, and there's some limits that cannot be increased that they are called hard limits as well. So you can open a free support case to increase limits for your organization. So there's some resources as you play around that you see that, oh, okay, what happened? I can't create more than so VMs, or I can't create more than 10,000 management group. I want to create 20,000 management group. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can see like, okay, there's a limit to this. I can't create more than, I think for subscription, you can create unlimited subscription, but there are some limits of things that you can not create. So that's when service limit and quotas comes into play. Then we have what we call the hierarchy. So the Azure resource hierarchy. So there is a old royalhood going on here. Okay, we have the prince and the king. So we have the road management group. Then we have the subscriptions, and we have the resource group, and we have the resources. So there are different kind of levels to it. I'm going to show us right now on my screen so we can see what it looks like and it doesn't look like alien to us. Let me just search for it. So this is the hierarchy, right? So this is the management group. I have the tenant root group, which is the Babanla of the Babanlas, like the father of the fathers. We have tenant root group. In each tenant root group, I can create also some other management group. So now I have demo management group. And this demo management group, if I add an extra subscription, I can put it there like, okay, this is for my demo account, for my dev test account. I put my dev subscription in my demo account so that people don't get confused. Then for my production is where I have the subscription. Unfortunately, I only have one subscription, so I can only show you based on one subscription. So now that I have my management group, I have my subscription, and under the subscription is where you now have your resource group as well. You can create a resource group based on the subscription, as I showed us earlier on. So that's the hierarchy. So the hierarchy is management group, subscription, resource group, resources. Okay, management group, subscription, resource group, then your resource groups, then your resources. Sorry. So that's the whole royal thing going on, the royal throne going on there. Then we have what we call resource tagging. So now, for you to be able to successfully know, okay, why was this resource group created before you go and delete somebody's artwork, it's good to always have a tag to it. For example, if I'm trying to create a resource group now, and I click on, let's see, let me just put it, East US, I'm not going to create it, and I go to tags. So you can see tags there. So this is where you can add tags to your resource group. You don't want people to delete it, for example. You can say, okay, created by Sarah Anweyago, right? Or so you just create it, anything you want to create it, right? Anything you want to make it, you can put purpose. The purpose of this is that it's for textilers, right? So that's another admin that is just doing his own work, like, what are they using this for? I will just delete it, right? So it's always good to tag your resources, okay? It's always good to tag your resources as well. So that's the benefit of resource tagging. It's the process of assigning metadata to Azure resources in the form value of key pair. So you have your name and your value, So the major use case would be to track your resource cost by projects. You can track it by departments, or you can track it by purpose, like, okay, or by environment as well. Like, okay, I want to track how much these people are spending, or I want to track how much Sarah Noyago is costing us in this thing she says she's doing for us, right? So that's one way of using tags. Also for automation, if you want to, for example, if you want to shut down VMs, like you work 8 to 5, right? And your company has different location. Nigeria 8 to 5 will be different from India 8 to 5, right? And you want to shut down VMs based on their tagging, like based on their location. So you can use that tags as well. Like, okay, all the VMs in this particular tag, maybe I put country as Nigeria. By 5 p.m., shut down all the VM, shut down all the computer. I don't want any computer to be turned on, right? And these tags can be assigned either on the portal, or on the CLI, or on PowerShell, or using ARM templates. So the way we created the resource at that time, you can also add an extra dash saying tag and assign it based on tags as well. Then I'm going to move on. There is no time. I'm going to move on to Azure policy. So now I'm going to go to my resource group. Back to my resource group. I'm going to click on AVD virtual network. Okay. So this is the resource group, and these are resources in my resource group. Don't worry about all these things you are seeing there. They may look to like virtual network, all these things. Don't worry about it. We are going to do high level of all this stuff later on. I'm just trying to teach you the basics of all these things. So don't worry about all these things, other things you are saying, but I'm just teaching the basics. So now we have what we call policies. And now for policies, why do you use policies? Policies is a service in Azure that allows you to create and assign and manage policies that enforce different rules and effect over your resources for compliance reasons. For example, I created a policy this morning. I said allowed locations. Yeah, this was the policy I created this morning. And I said I don't want users to sign in from outside North Europe, right? So if we can see for East US, they are marked as non-compliant. If you see this test here, they are marked as not compliant because they were created in East US, because they were created in West Europe, because they were created in East US. So that's an example, because it was created in UK South. That's an example of what you can use policy for. So just to do a quick demo, I'm in my resource group now. This is a resource group. Let's assume I want to create a virtual network. And I click on, let me type virtual network. I click on virtual network. I click on it. I click on create. Don't worry about what virtual network is. We are going to come into it on that class. I'm just trying to create a resource. Virtual network is a part of resource. Okay. We're going to go deep into it in another class. So you click on resource group. Yes, I want to use this AVD virtual network resource group that I have. And I give the name tech stylers test. Okay. Naming convention. So okay, did I get that right? Okay. So now I choose. Now I created a resource. I created a policy saying that I don't want users to be able to sign in from North Europe, right? From outside North Europe. So if I click on Poland, for example, and I click on review and create, it's going to run a validation. And see, it says validation failed. And if you click on check details, it's going to tell you request disallowed by policy. Text alert is disallowed by policy. And this is the reason. I already put the reason there. Only create in North Europe. So when should you use this? It's for compliance reasons. You don't want your developers to go and be creating a resource in a particular resource group outside, for example, maybe you've promised one government or one bank that, oh, the data will never leave North Europe. And somebody knew your organization, you gave him the job as Azure administrator, does not know, is used to using South Africa or is used to using another resource group or was just absent-minded when he was creating it. This is going to check him here like, hey, stop. You have to create it in North Europe. Probably you can put more reasons that, oh, this is for a client. Our client requests that it cannot be created outside North Europe. It has to be created in North Europe. Does this make sense to us? Do we have any questions about Azure policy? Just a quick question for us in the chat. Do we think that, what do you think is the difference between this Azure policy and conditional access policy? Can anybody tell me? Anybody try? No, there's no wrong answer. Anybody? No one. Is anybody raising their hand? Yeah, what's the difference between conditional access
policy is to control where you can have access from.
Okay. Then
yes,
Azure policy.
Like authentication, yes. While Azure policy is the kind of resources can provision, in which region you can provision it for.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not only about region per se.
Yeah, my hands are raised.
Oh, sorry. Can you answer can you try then? Attend the question.
Yes, so I think the policy attached is attached at the resource group level, and also you can do more here aside unlike the conditional access that is within the user or group, and what you can only do is to restrict the IP and the location of the user trying to access the resources. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and that's both of you are both. That's a brilliant answer. So, so Azure policy, as you guys have said, is like it's been attached at a resource level. You can the scope is resource group, as well as I believe subscription as well. and I believe as well management group as well. However, for conditional access policy, it's based on the user, it's based on the identity and less of the resources. I don't know if that makes sense. So that's the major difference. So that means you guys are listening. Bigs ups to you guys. So that's for policy. And just how to assign a policy. I noticed I didn't talk about that. So how do you assign a policy? When you click on the resource group that you want to assign a policy, for example, this resource group here, and you click on come back to policies, and you click on assign policy. Yes, you click on assign policy, and I click on policy definition. So here is where you choose your policy definition. It can be anything, okay? It must not be location. But because I'm a very location person, and I think it's a very easy way to explain. If I type location, this is where it's right, okay? Allowed locations, and I click on add. This is where you can now like, okay, this is the location you want to allow. You can now do like your editing. And I'm like, okay, this is why I created it from like the description, what should happen, should you enforce it, and stuff like that, right? You come to the parameters, you click on the allowed location. So this is the allowed location. I click on North Europe. So this is what I did basically earlier on. So I click on North Europe. What's it going to do? That anyone that is not North Europe is not going to allow it. So non-compliance message, this is where you can write, okay, this resource is not allowed to, so you help users understand why a resource is not compliant with this policy. So this is where you write the purpose, like, okay, you can't create this resource you're trying to create because you are not in this you're not creating in that location, right? But if I go back to the resource group and I try to create a resource like a virtual network, as I was trying to do the other time, if I click on virtual network again, if I click on create virtual network, same subscription, I choose North Europe and I choose test with champs, right? And I click on review and create. It's going to create now because I am not, because I'm compliant, right? It's going to create straight up. My virtual network has been created straight up. So that's seeing Azure policy works, right? So Azure policy can be used not only for location, for different kind of policies that you have in place. It can be anything. And lastly, before we finish up today's class, I know I'm 7 minutes past time. I know today's Saturday, so I'm going to just quickly go back to our resources, any resource that we have. So let me come here. So now we have what we call RBAC roles. That's role-based access control. So role-based access control is still different from Entra ID roles, which is what I talked about, the global admin roles and all. So this is resource group. The scope can also be subscription, can also be assigned to resource group, and can also be assigned at a resource level. So what do I mean by that? So this is a resource group here, right? And you can see that access control here. So here I can say, I can view my access. If I view my access, you can see that I am the owner because I am the admin. And I also inherited some roles as well from the subscription as well and from the management group. So if I go to subscription as well, you can see the access control here again. So I can either give role from here or I go back to the resource group. Or if I don't want them to have like full role, I can still even go back and choose the resource. For example, which resource will I choose now? Let me go to overview. I can choose maybe this test resource here, this virtual network here, and I come here and I give the access here. For example, as a network engineer, I don't want my network engineer to have access to everything in my environment, right? I just give him access to this one here so that he can have access to do his network stuff and go. He may have some read-only rights to the subscription level so that he can have access to this one, but that's all. You add the role here, you give him the role here, and it's gone. Right? So that's what RBAC is all about. So you can assign role, there are different type of role, there's contributor role, and they usually ask the question a lot. So please, if you can, try to read the most common roles. The most common built-in roles are owner role. Owner means you have full access to all the resources, including the right to delegate access to others. For example, if I'm an owner means I can give Rukayat access to it. An owner means I can give TT access to it. Right? If I'm a contributor, it means I can still do everything, but I cannot give access to Rukayat. I'm only a contributor. I cannot do too much, right? I can contribute to the resources. I can create some things. I can create an IP address for like virtual network. I can create this. I can create that. But I cannot now go and give access to Rukayat because I'm just a contributor, right? Then if I'm a reader, I can only read everything. I can read, okay, these are the IP address we have in our office. These are the this we have, but I cannot make any changes, right? So these are the three common built-in roles that we have, and they usually ask the question, but they'll not ask like, okay, what's the contributor? They may just ask question like, oh, you have a virtual network and you want to assign a role, and this person is going to do this and this person is going to do that. What is the minimum, the least privilege to assign to that person? So the least privilege, maybe in that instance, is if the person does not need to grant access to others, you can be like, okay, the least privileged access you can give to the person is a contributor role. At least now the contributor can do everything. And the option may be reader role, owner role, or contributor role, right? You know, a reader cannot change anything. So you know, a reader is the wrong answer. You know, that owner can grant access to others, but they said the least permissible role you can give to the person. And maybe in the question, they did not mention that the person has to grant access on that person. So it's just tricky. You just know your answer is contributor role. So those are the kind of questions you see when you are preparing for the AZ104 exam. So I think we've come to the end of today's class. So just a quick review of what we've done today. We spoke about identity. We spoke about users. We spoke about groups. We spoke about conditional access policy. We spoke about MFA. We spoke about subscriptions. We spoke about the royalty, you know, the hierarchy, the management group to subscription to resource group to resources. Don't forget your Royal Highness. The management group to subscription to resource group to resources. Okay, that's the order from the king to the princess. Okay, so that's the order of how it's going. We spoke about that. They may ask you questions on that. We spoke about creating resource group. I taught you how to create a resource group using the Azure portal or using the Cloud Shell. I taught you how to use Azure policy, and I showed how to create an Azure policy and how it works, and how we were unable to create a virtual network because of the Azure policy I had in place that blocks them from creating from any other region that is not North Europe. We spoke about different regions that Microsoft have and what it works for, and that they're impaired. They're always impaired together, meaning if North Europe is down, West Europe can back it up. West Europe can take over. So we spoke about it because they will ask you those kind of questions in the exam as well. We also spoke about the RBAC roles. RBAC roles is these roles we are talking about here: contributor roles, owner role, what other role? Reader role, and all other like small roles that we have here as well. So these are unique roles. You may not need to know everything, but I just feel like you should just take a look at them for your own knowledge sake, right? We also spoke about what again did we speak about? We spoke about a lot of things. We spoke about what else? Policies, creating resource group, creating resources,
governance, regions.
Yes. So we spoke about a lot of things today. We spoke about service limit and quotas. There are some resources that there are some limits. Like for subscription, you can create unlimited subscription. I think I have to be sure. But there are some things that you cannot create more than in the environment. You can ask Microsoft to help you to increase it to, but sometimes they ask you not to. So I think that comes to an end for today's session. So next class is also going to be me, and that's going to be next week Saturday, same time, same place. I'm going to take questions now based on what we've learned today. So you can take me back as far as you want, but if you want to drop, feel free to drop. If you want to stay on the call, I'm going to stay an extra 15 minutes for questions and answers. Okay, John, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for the session. Okay, should I still go ahead?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I want to ask for the service quotas in an environment in which we have exceeded the service quota. What should be your advice, maybe in terms of the management group or the Azure resources? What should be your advice for what should an engineer do in such scenario?
Okay, for the quotas, there's what they call the soft limits and the hard limit, right? For example, for Azure, there's a number of VMs you can create. I don't know how many, but there is a limit of how many VMs you can create. And these things are in place to prevent overuse and also to ensure that there is fair usage across users, right? So there's what we call soft limit and hard limit. There is soft limit, which means it can be increased if you raise a support request with Microsoft. At the back end, they're going to increase your quota for your organization. And there is what they call hard limits. And those hard limits means some resources, there's nothing you can do about it. Microsoft told you it's only 10 they are giving you, it's only 10 they are giving you. There's nothing you can do about it, right? So it depends on the kind of resources and it depends on the kind of scenario, right? There are different resources that can be used for different reasons. And I'm sure that for them to put a limit there, it has to be reasonable. So it's reasonable. I can't think any on the top of my head for Azure, but I know like for emails, I don't think you can send an email of more than 25 MB, for example, in an organization. I think it's an hard limit. You can't change that. If you want to send large file, use SharePoint or something else, right? You can't use Outlook. Same thing with Power Apps. You cannot create an app and upload Canvas app more than 50 MB. If you want to upload more than 50 MB, you cannot use Power Apps, Canvas app. So I can't really remember. I'm trying to think of an example in Azure, but I can't really point my fingers at one. So yes, there are different. Titi, do you want to jump in? Yeah, Titi, you can jump in anytime.
Yes. Well done. Well done. So I just wanted to maybe just go back to your subscription and go to the quota setting of it. They can see a bit of that there. That's settings. Yes.
Yes, usage plus quota. Oh.
Yes, usage and quota. Yes. So it will tell you like a percentage based on your subscription. You can use certain percentage of a particular resource rather on that subscription. However, that that's dependent on your available credits that you have. For instance, here it says you can create standard SSD storage disk in this particular region. You can create up to 50,000 storage. So that's just what this usage and quota, that's what it references. For virtual machine as well, you see how many you can create. For things like the virtual machine size, the family size, you see it has used about 8% out of 100%, which means you can use all your credits available to create virtual machines of this particular family size. You can consume all your credit on it. That's just what these limits are all about.
Thank you, Titi. John, I hope that answers your question. Titi is Grandmaster Azure, yeah. So, Rukayat, can you ask a question?
Yeah, thank you, ma. I actually dropped the question in the Q&A, but I guess it wasn't said. Okay, ma. So you showed us how to create a resource in the PowerShell environment, right? So I was asking that, is understanding how to use the PowerShell a priority for anyone who wants to become an Azure administrator? And how can one become better or sound in using the shell environment? That's my number one question. The second one is, you showed us the roots, the management, the root tenants, the management group environments, which are the parents to the subscription. Does it come by default when you set up an account on Azure, or do the Azure administrator need to? Sorry about that, please. That's my son. The Azure administrator have to, create those parents level of the Azure environments. Thank you, man. How can we do that? Thank you, man.
That's a very good question. So the first question, until you jump on the call, just you can unmute yourself. The first question is about shell. Okay, let's Titi go. Titi, go for it.
I've actually answered the questions for her, so that's all. I just wanted to take it. So for the first one, right? You've been talking since, so that's why let me
help me, I beg.
For the first one that you asked in terms of running, knowing script or running PowerShell, yeah, it's a plus if you have it. It's good to have, but it's not a must have. However, it's a plus, just like you see what he did. virtually everything you want to do in Azure, you can do it right from the portal. However, we have people who might want to, who are used to scripting, who are used to commands already. Such people, it won't be hard for them to just perform their task using the PowerShell option. Also, where it will also now be very useful for you, there are some advanced configuration that you cannot do from the portal aspect. So in that case, you have to run commands to be able to perform such tasks. And then when you want to automate, that's automation is all about scripting that is running behind. There are some things you can do within portal when it comes to automation, but a lot can be done or achieved faster and very quick and quicker using commands. Those are area or instances where you might be needing to make use of command as against dragging and dropping or just selecting the corresponding feature you want to add. Now, when it comes to how easy it is for you to learn PowerShell, it's actually very easy. There's a basic idea that you need to have behind about PowerShell is the fact that it makes uses of two English is it figure of part of speech, or that's verb and noun, right? What do they call that now? Sorry. So if you did English, you do it. I say did or do or did. Okay. If you did English in school and you did noun and verb, at least right from primary school, they've been teaching on. If you are very good with that, you will actually be able to learn PowerShell very fast. If you look at the script that says pull up, you notice there's a new, then the new is a verb, while resource group is a noun. You want new is an action word, right? Create, so you want to create a new. You have word like create, you have new means to create. So majorly that's just the way it works. If you understand verb and noun, you'll be able to easily understand, how to use the command. And I've also, in my response, I also posted some link on the response as well. I don't know whether you people are seeing the chat now. I'm not sure if you are seeing the chat yet, but on the Q&A, I posted response. Now, for your second question, which is management group. By default, the moment you create an Azure subscription, it's not Azure subscription, the moment you create your tenant, you automatically have a management group that is created as well. So you can then create further management groups. For you to create, you just go to the, because it has used it before, that's why it's showing up in the quick access listing. You can just go to the search blade and type management group and it will bring it up for you. Now, you will need to create management group majorly. It's useful if you have multiple subscriptions that you want to be able to distribute. And like CA told us during our session, during the session, you use management group for different purposes, either to manage billing, either to manage to identify who is using what, and also for environment. Like somebody asked, can we relate it to, can we say, okay, that's a resource group. Management group can also represent an environment, like you are creating a management group for that will contain subscription for production environment, or the one that will contain subscription for development environment, or the one that will contain subscription for test environment and all of that, or based on geographic region for your, is it region, or will I say, if you have a large organization where they are like international organization that have branches everywhere, and you want each country or region to be able to tell, you want to be able to tell what each person are spending or to manage their own billing by themselves. So in that case, you create management group for you to be able to put subscription for each categories of users in those group. So I hope we answer your question.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you, Ma. Thank you. You did. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Very good. And just as she mentioned again in the shell, it's it's when you start using it, you get used to it. And once you get used to it, there is no stopping you. We'll be begging you to come and use the portal back, because it's actually very interesting. You can do many things in the using PowerShell. Like you can create many things at once using PowerShell. Like you can bulk or update things at once. Yeah, I don't know whatever is going on there, but that's the advantage of using Shell. And I'm trying to see if I can bring up what I was doing before, so you can see how it works. Okay, there we go.
Sorry, Sarah, sorry. Hello, Sarah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so this is MJ. Sorry, I'm using Rachel's
Okay,
account
I was
because of the
wondering.
changes we're making. All right, so but I would like to say something around what Rukayat asked, and then what is very important is this: your exam, and that is why it's. Yes, I know Titi said it's not a must have, but I will encourage you to, because your exam, that's what you're going to find mostly. You have to be able to interpret your what they call it. You have to be able to interpret the script. Some of the questions will come to you in that format, which means you might have to complete maybe a partial script, probably maybe to be able to create a management group or a resource group. So it is important that, for me, if you ask me, that you learn it. I know that you guys can't see the chat window. I've been putting in some URL for you, a complete learning path for it. So I will encourage Sarah, please, if you can, or Titi, if you guys can copy those URL for them and put it in the, what they call it, in the Discord channel, so they can use that. And then from next week, we've sorted out with the chat issue, but you already started this session. But from next week, I guess you guys will be okay.
Thank you so much, Ma.
All right, then.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So, Babatunde, we only have 2 more minutes. So let's wrap it up so that we can ask our questions in the Discord channel or the WhatsApp, whichever one you are in. Babatunde, can you, so just 2 more questions, Babatunde and Rukayat, and then we'll share
it's not really a question. I'm not on the Discord channel, so is there any way I can go about that?
Madam MJ,
I think you should just send a mail to blessing@techsellers.com or Lara. Can you reach Lara or Blessing? Just reach out to them.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Rukayat, last question, then we call it a day.
Thank you, Ma. I smile when you say last question. Okay, Ma. So thank you so much, Madam MJ, for that response. Thank you, Ma. So you mentioned something while you were taking the class that, okay, after the AZ 104 exam, we can get a job as an AZURE administrator. So I wanted to ask, because I think I've seen some of the job had out there, and then you see that you need some years of experience to apply for this role. What do you advise? Do you think that, okay, after this whole training, with the knowledge we get here, we can still scale that market? I just wanted to ask from your experience. Thank you, Ma.
Okay, I'll speak based on my experience, because my experience may be different to yours or maybe different to others, but I always go for what I want, and that's always worked for me, right? So I would say make sure that you have it in your resume that, okay, this is what you learned and these are the things you can do, and make sure in the interview you show that you can do it as well. And sometimes this role, they may put like Azure administrator, but they may be employing for a junior Azure administrator, but they may not put like junior in front of it, right? Like the job that I got that took me out of the country when I was in Nigeria, I just applied for it, and it was a junior role, but you wouldn't know that it's a junior role. And sometimes they may just put it as just a role, and when you're intervening for it, they'll be like, oh, okay, we won't put you on this level, we'll put you on a lower level. And to you, that's fine, right? So anytime you see a role, especially especially women that are on this call, because I know most of us try to make sure we have 100% before we apply, go for it. Make sure your resume is outstanding. We have so many deep dive sessions on resume, on applying to jobs. So make sure you watching out for our YouTube channels. We usually have inspirational sessions as well. So make sure you join those sessions as well, where we don't only discuss technical stuff, we also discuss about applying to jobs. So yes, once you get your certification, apply. It's a game of numbers. Madam MJ, would you like to add something to this?
So if you, I'm laughing because you said Madam MJ, so I think MJ is fine. That's a double madam if you don't know.
Oh, okay, the madam is, but I didn't know that the M for M is madam.
It's fine. All right. So Ruka, yes, that's a very brilliant one. So I would advise that this is what you do. You see, sometimes you also need to also do some form of, I know there is, what's Rachel has said, I'm sorry, Sarah has said is completely correct. 100%. I'll also tell you that another thing you need to do is to see how you can, if there is any opening for, go to organization and ask for internship programs. Sometimes maybe tell them you are not even interested in being paid. You just want to be around, the environment for you to even just gain that experience, that work experience. Now that forms part of your experience. I know organizations today, a lot of them are quite very skeptical about having people to join, or because of the situation of the country. Well, but you can